More Steam Next Festival demos to try includes Metroidvanias, Friend Slop, third-person action-adventure, farming games, and more. So let's begin with Vital Shell, a single-player survivors-like where you pilot mechs inspired by classic fantasy archetypes to survive waves of relentless enemies. These mech shells echo a fantasy class like Knight or Mage with abilities to match, as you do Vampire Survivors stuff but with more mech-based upgrades, having a sick-looking PS1-inspired art style and has gem socketing for weapons, so perhaps Final Fantasy VII inspiration and just looks cool. Moonsigil Atlas is a celestial deck-building roguelike, but don't run away just yet since there is something different to this game, where battles play out as puzzles. Instead of using mana or energy, each spell, shield or attack is represented by a unique shape that must fit onto your lunar grid. Rotate, slide, and layer sigils onto the board to maximize bonuses and chain effects, turning regular deck building into a game of geometry and foresight, but this is in service of generating attacks to take out enemies with some fantastic looking art as well. This video is brought to you by Kotama and Academy Citadel via their publisher 2P Games, a stylish Metroidvania where you play as Kotama, a mysterious exchange student entering the Carmel Academy Citadel, having to fight, explore, and peel back the sinister truth behind its walls on your quest to become the Carmel Star. You explore a labyrinthine map filled with hidden corridors, locked doors, puzzles, and branching paths, gradually unlocking new paths through gained skills, weapons, and a clever time rewind mechanic that lets you reverse mistakes, solve temporal riddles, and to revisit past areas in new ways. Combat looks good, making use of fluid detonation and mind acceleration abilities to take out your enemies, with a wide variety of weapons and different ways to customize your combat style. Along the way, you'll rescue classmates, learn their stories, and make choices about who to trust, with every decision affecting the final fate of the academy and our protagonist. I do love the anime-inspired visuals and character portraits as well, looking like a well-made one of these, and thus have multiple difficulty modes, making it accessible for players new to the genre, but also for hardcore veteran players looking for a challenge. The demo is available right now on Steam, so try it and wishlist the game to get notified on release. Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown is a story-driven survival strategy adventure game where you're put in command of the USS Voyager and its crew, making critical decisions as you make your way through the uncharted sectors of Delta Quadrant in order to get home, balancing diplomacy, combat, and resource management to keep the ship intact. Each expedition is a mix of tactical ship battles, away missions, and narrative choices, factoring in crew morale and various upgrades which could lead to drastically different outcomes. You have to decide on what to build on board the ship and what to repair or maintain, going on missions to gain valuable resources that will help you on your way. Instead of being a beat-by-beat retelling of the events of the series, this game explores what-if scenarios and their downstream consequences, such as embracing Borg technology, or what if a critical decision from the show wasn't made, with iconic characters possibly getting killed early on in your run as well. Procedurally generated elements ensure that no two Voyagers feel the same as you handle distress calls, derelict alien ships, and other cosmic phenomena, definitely being for Trekkies and thus still have appeal even if you're not familiar. Vending Machine Co is a cozy simulation title where you're building out a vending machine empire in a charming Japanese city. You begin with a few basic machines, stocking them with drinks, snacks, and other novelties, adjusting prices based on customer foot traffic and demand, then use those profits to purchase more items and machines. Each district has its own vibe and requirements, such as more demand for coffee in office areas, or more gachapon-style collectibles near arcades, so be strategic in your placement of machines and selection of goods. These machines can be upgraded with features like cooling, digital payments, or faster restocking, where you use your K-truck and shuttle between your warehouse and the machines to restock them. unlock new parts, blueprints and locations, and deal with new challenges as consumer demand shifts, having a charming art style and looks quite cozy. Philna Fantasy is a pixel art action-adventure RPG coming to us from a Chinese developer, so some things might be lost in translation since, for example, you are playing as an adventurer from an alien planet who just so happens to land on this continent of Volant, and thus begins Philna Fantasy? Still, story aside, this looks like an awesome pixel art one of these, where there's some sort of main story about fighting off shadows invading the world, so standard fantasy game stuff, but it looks good. You explore forests, dungeons and towns, battling monsters with fluid combos, solving environmental puzzles and helping the villagers with what appears to be a variety of character classes as well, with the warrior and archer shown off in this trailer, but there will be a total of 4. There's a crafting system for weapons, equipment and even healing items, also having a gem system, so definitely leaning into the RPG elements, so while I'm not expecting crosscode, one can hope, right? Of the games on this list, Drowning Ashes might be the most niche, having a certain, say, RPG maker look to it. But hey, fear and hunger is a thing, so why not give this a chance? This is a monster taming turn-based RPG set in a kingdom where the flood waters have risen to drown the accursed, and it is among the ruins of the capital that you attempt to survive. Defeat enemies in turn-based combat and recruit them afterwards, which does remind me of one of my favourites in Dragon Warrior Monsters, as you carve a path through the ruins and your enemies. It has Souls-like inspiration, with how they deal with healing flasks, bonfires, as well as tempering the ashes of your foes into mighty weapons, so I'm guessing ashes are the currency used for upgrades which are lost if you fall in battle. Similarly, this applies to the world and level design as well, with shortcuts and secret tunnels, offering brief respite after you defeat a boss or something. Your creatures have to complement your hero, and each monster has its own unique skills, gear and growth path, being more like party members with no mention of permadeath, so I wonder what happens if they fall in battle. Still, this looks cool with some great designs, so help a smaller death out by checking out the demo. Since we last took a look at Fatal Claw, they have made some much improved key art, and the same applies visually for the game itself, being a 2D Metroidvania where you play as a resurrected cat, having to restore balance to a hidden underworld by reclaiming the key to the surface. You explore interconnected areas packed with platforming challenges and infected enemies, with the unique gimmick of absorbing the powers of defeated enemies to turn against them. Combat looks visceral as you use your claw attacks, dodge and unleash special abilities, with this having a perhaps not coincidental resemblance to Hollow Knight down to the UI. There are some other survivors and NPCs to interact with, and as you help them, new paths open and more lore about the world is revealed. This is still supposed to be a 2025 release, but it's getting late in the year, so I'm guessing this will be a November release. Trash will hopefully not be trash in terms of quality, and it's a cooperative action-adventure crafting game where you explore a rubbish-ridden world, having to work together to restore balance and forge your own identity. You jump, glide and smash your way across open landscapes cluttered with trash creatures and debris as you restore ruins to their former glory. Craft different forms and weapons from discarded parts, which will grant access to new abilities like smashing through walls or turning into a ball, allowing you to reach new areas and is Metroidvania-like in that sense. On top of the handcrafted open world, there are procedurally generated challenge areas named the Hazard Dungeon, which provides replayability. This is all as you uncover a story about humanity's ruin and why the world is in the state that it is in. I use this term endearingly, so the latest Friend Slop title is YAPYAP, a game which follows in the footsteps of titles like Peak and Content Warning, and is a co-op horror title that casts you and up to 5 friends as wizard minions sent to sabotage rival archmage towers. You'll sneak around, cast spells and vandalize relics, breaking pianos, hiding keys and messing with rituals while evading horrifying magical creatures that patrol the halls. Being a low-level minion means that your magic is weird and unstable since you don't have complete mastery, so use float, pull, push, smash, clone, teleport, nauseate, fishify, grow legs, and more in interesting ways. As you push deeper, the tower layout grows more complex, the guards more aggressive, and the spells harder to control, and looks like the next big hit. Journey to the Void is a tactical roguelite deck builder where positioning is just as important as the cards you have in your hand. You control a solo hero at the center of a shifting grid as waves of enemies close in from all sides, and your only defense is the deck you build and the decisions you make with every turn. Cards represent actions such as attacks or elemental spells, and each one interacts differently depending on where and when you play it. You need to analyze the battlefield and determine the best course of action, with game-changing trinkets to collect which affects your build for the run, enhancing it in interesting ways as they stack upon each other. Interestingly, I don't think you are able to move, instead just sitting at the center of the grid, eliminating one consideration, which means that your cards become even more important. Ledgerbound is a narrative-driven tactical RPG where your ordinary desk job meets fantasy warfare when an immortal threat returns. You play as an insurance adjuster forced to leave office life behind and lead a ragtag group of heroes against the Vakari, beings who resurrect stronger each time you slay them. Where you need to find 3 mysterious artifacts to summon an ancient being to prove that the Vakari are not invincible, in order to reject an insurance claim by the families of heroes who bought a policy from your company and died, so that your firm does not go bankrupt. So yes, you're not exactly the good guys here either. It's classic turn-based combat on the grid, but moves are more constrained with 2 to 4 rolls, with positioning, skill synergies, and timing being critical. Recruit companions, upgrade their abilities, and develop relationships between characters, looking like it might have some Fire Emblem influence as well. It's witty and has great art, and I do love the Darkest Dungeon style cut-in animations when units attack, with humorous writing and great voice acting rounding off the package. Developer-publisher Owlcat Games are known for their CRPGs, having made the modern Pathfinder games as well as Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader and the upcoming Dark Heresy, and are taking their skill set and publishing similar games such as Shadow of the Road, one set in an alternate version of Japan during the final days of the Tokugawa shogunate. In a world of magic, machines, and political intrigue, you assemble a team of outcasts, including samurai, mystics, mechanists, and more, and explore the fractured empire, where yokai and steam-powered contraptions threaten both tradition and the future. Battles take place on the grid, almost XCOM-like, with positioning, elemental weaknesses, and gear synergies playing a role. Use not only regular attacks but supernatural powers to take out your foes, including giant machines and demonic-looking creatures. The setting, time period, and twist on history is intriguing, providing a blank canvas for the developer to create their world, so I'm interested to see where the story goes, perhaps being more akin to something like Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden, and looks very good. Blind Descent is a first-person survival exploration game with an interesting setting where you're actually deep beneath the surface of Mars, leading a rescue mission, but then realizing that there's a whole new alien world down here. You and your crew are 10 miles below ground and have to find a way to survive and accomplish your mission, dealing with alien flora and fauna as well as environmental threats. This is a punching trees kind of survival game, so get to work gathering resources, crafting tools, building shelter, and advancing up the tech tree. Exploration is not simply walking around, but you do have to craft and use tools to scale cliffs and descend into caverns, with underground storms, toxic gases, and aggressive creatures hindering your progress. Learn about and use alien plants to your advantage, also being able to gain mutations by consuming specific fruits or inhaling spores, which doesn't seem ideal, but hey, when in Rome. It does give me some nautical vibes, only not underwater of course, and is very anticipated for good reason, so definitely check it out. I always get Escape from Ever After mixed up with Born of Bread, both being turn-based RPGs with active combat and a Paper Mario inspired art style, so no, this one is still unreleased and is a genre-blending RPG where fairy tales and capitalism collide in a storybook world turned corporate. You play as Flint Buckler, a hero who storms the castle of his evil dragon arch-nemesis, only to find it overrun with cubicles, having been taken over by Ever After Inc. They are exploiting the cheap labor and profits to be had from storybooks, so our hero goes undercover, working his way up the corporate ladder, partnering with unlikely allies, and to take down the Mega Corp from the inside. This has Mario and Luigi style turn-based combat, where hitting buttons in time to the prompts rewards you with extra bonuses like more damage or a stun on enemies and so forth. Your companion character changes how your abilities interact with RPG and progression elements as you upgrade these unique skills as you go along. Similarly, the various storybook worlds will provide biome variety as you take on evil unicorns, toy soldiers, gnomes, and more, looking absolutely fantastic and is one of my most anticipated titles in this genre. Speaking of anticipated games, we have the pixel art action-adventure title Bittersweet Birthday, one where every combat encounter is a unique boss fight mixed with quiet moments of reflection in between. You wake with no memory in a strange facility, guided only by a disembodied voice that calls you Birthday Boy and leads you towards escape. Boss fights are designed around timing, patience, and observation rather than button mashing or all-out action, where you have to find the right opening to land your attack before dodging out of the way. Bosses change attack patterns mid-battle, forcing you to learn and adapt, so fairly standard boss rush stuff, but it does look good. The setup is mysterious and intriguing as you try to piece together who you are and how you ended up here, with a village of NPCs and missions to take on to aid in the exposition, looking to join the ranks of games like Ita, Titan Souls, and Elder's Souls, and should be pretty good. What is old is new again in Crown of Greed, a kingdom management strategy game where power is earned not through command but persuasion, where you do not have direct control over your units but must rather persuade them with the power of coin, resembling the Majesty games, which is relatively rare, although some other indie developers have tried. You play as a ruler vying for the legendary Throne of Rodovia, building cities, forming armies, and getting heroes to act on your behalf. Every decision you make shapes how your people respond, such as placing bounties to encourage adventurers to take them on, while you can also use the power of laws to steer citizen behavior. The economy becomes your weapon as you balance trade, defense, and diplomacy, with the power of money allowing you to shape the world. You have to expand and grow your city, adding new districts and unique buildings, but beware, since the opposite forces apply to you as well. Neglect your people and rebellion brews, or invest in them, and prosperity follows, with the indirect control being the most fascinating part and should be great as well. I was happy to see Scraptackle get picked up by publisher Fellow Traveller, since I've covered this game during and even before its Kickstarter, being a wacky and whimsical action-adventure title that could be something special. You control a young apprentice mage named Blue, whose wizard academy got attacked and has been literally thrown out from the academy and has to find a way to survive in the outside world filled with curious creatures and lost magic. It's a Zelda-style title, so you're exploring sprawling regions linked by shortcuts and secrets, with the twist being that this leans more into personality and humor. Combat is in real time, being playful but deliberate as you fling paint-like spells, dodge enemy attacks, and exploit elemental interactions. Explore in whatever direction that you want, but you might end up getting stuck until you learn a new spell. One thing that I remember about the campaign is that you know how NPCs often trap you in a conversation loop and you have to mash the button to get through them, only to accidentally start all over again? Well, in this game, you can simply walk away from the conversation, so it's that kind of whimsy along with the scribbly, jittery, hand-drawn art that gives it a lot of charm. Something very different in terms of vibes is Tears of Metal, coming to us from the developer of Blood Roots, and is a brutal medieval hack-and-slash roguelite, casting you as a Scottish warrior fighting through endless invasions to reclaim a homeland scorched by dragons and war machines. Choose from a roster of heroes, each with unique weapon styles and skill trees, and lead your soldiers through massive battlefields, getting into the thick of the action. Fast and punishing combat requires you to be aware of of enemy troops and formations as you dodge cavalry charges, parry heavy blows, and carve through hordes of enemies. There's a management layer in between battles as you retreat to camp, spending resources to upgrade your barracks, forge new weapons, and recruit companions, with permanent progression unlocks as well. It looks good and perhaps might be Dynasty Warriors-like, perhaps also having some Vampire Survivors inspiration, and should be great. Indie developers have weaponized gambling mechanics in their roguelites to create horribly compelling games, the latest example of which is Slots and Daggers, a roguelike dungeon crawler where you're spinning a slots machine and turning the results from that into combat. Descend into a weird fantasy world filled with monsters, traps, and treasures, using the slot machine reels to defeat enemies, gaining coins to purchase upgrades to manipulate the odds in your favor. You are manually stopping the reels, which can be exciting, matching icons to trigger attacks, status effects, or healing, or to go for rare patterns to unleash devastating chain reactions. Relics that you find alter how your slots behave, allowing you to lock in specific symbols, boosting probabilities, or even adding cursed symbols that grant power at a dangerous cost. Looking to join the recently released Clover Pit as a huge success and has the potential to do so. I'm not sure what happened between the developers of Thumper, since Thrasher is the follow-up to that, but references the artist and composer of Thumper only, and is under a different developer name, so perhaps some sort of disagreement between the old team here. But anyways, this is a surreal rhythm action game with a similar kind of soundscape that should be awesome. This is an audio-visual experience where you guide a magnificent space eel, swooping and thrashing it through an abstract cosmos of colour, light, and sound. You have to weave between barriers and strike enemies in time with the music, with a circle-based combo system that looks fun to wrap your head around. I do love rhythm games despite not being a music person, not even being really any good at them, but still, Thumper was something else, so this is on my list. One of the prettiest farming sims in development is Star Sand Island, inviting you to leave the city behind and settle into a warm social life on a tropical archipelago where community and nature take center stage. In this anime-style farming sim, you'll fish coastal waters, grow crops, raise animals, and develop relationships with the locals, befriending or even falling in love with each NPC having their own distinct personalities. Of course, this follows the Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley template, but now in gorgeous 3D, where you'll unlock new crafting recipes, more decorative items, seasonal events, and discover stories about the island itself, with a bunch of other side activities like playing in the arcades being included as well. It will have co-op support, so friends can help you with farming or chores, and your shared island grows together as a result of your actions. So while it does follow the template, the modern flourishes are very well done and is appealing. Publisher Hooded Horse continues to crush it with the city builder automation title Whiskerwood, already crushing it on YouTube even pre-release, where you're building a sprawling mouse colony while under the oppressive watch of the cat overlords. Balance production chains, logistics, and diplomacy to survive and thrive, kind of feeling like Timberborn but mice, and you get the idea. You begin on isolated islands with a few mice and basic supplies, and slowly expand your territory by constructing mines, farms, sawmills, and factories to make the 40 different commodities that your feline masters demand. As you grow, automation becomes vital, with fan-favorite conveyor belts along with rail lines and vertical burrows to maximize efficiency. Mice have individual traits and guilds that affect their efficiency and welfare, so you need to assign jobs carefully to match their strengths, which is where the colony sim influence can be seen. The cats issue tax demands at regular intervals, forcing you to meet quotas or risk their wrath and possible death of some of your mice, as they eventually build up the strength for a revolt, adding an interesting narrative element to the automation title. Monsters Are Coming Rock and Road is an interesting looking roguelite, self-described as a tower survivor game where you have to protect a mobile fortress by battling endless hordes that threaten to destroy it. You play as a peon who gathers resources such as wood, stone, and gold, placing yourself in danger to get these so that you can reinforce the city's defenses. The city itself is a living machine as you design districts, place and upgrade defensive structures, and balance expansion against vulnerability as the fortress marches ever onward. In combat, you fight alongside your structure using its automated defenses like turrets and towers. Unlock better districts, stronger towers, and new abilities, both in run and as permanent upgrades between runs, with biome variety, each providing new threats and opportunities. Your goal is to reach the Arch, a distant shelter promising safety. But if zombie apocalypse tropes are anything to go by, that might not be a sanctuary after all. But for now, it's the MacGuffin that keeps you moving forward and is a clever mix of ideas. Another great looking anime style title is Homura Hime, a fast-paced 3D action game where you play as Homura, the flame princess tasked with purifying the world and defeating all demons. Use fluid melee combos with dodging and counters in the bullet hell style combat, with the verticality and the ability to jump adding to the intensity as you just get out of the way of projectiles. Each fight feels like a duel, almost Fury-like in some spots, so it's about pattern recognition and reflexes as always. There's also 3D platforming and exploration, although that doesn't seem to be the focus, looking like another accidentally made game, so give the demo a try. Have you ever had an experience with a developer that simply clicks with you and then all their subsequent games have the same effect? Well, that is me with Transhuman Design and Butcher from 2016, with their next title being Jackal, a top-down action shooter that has Hotline Miami vibes. Set in 1970s Las Vegas, play as a drug-fueled hitman, taking down the mob, executing ultra-violent raids in casino hotels using guns, knives, improvised weapons and brutal finishes. There is some degree of procedural generation in the rooms and layouts, but I believe there's more to this game than just an arcadey experience and has a story and narrative, but if you love the indie classic like me, this will certainly be of interest. Watch this video for more Steam Next Festival recommendations.
I've painted this picture before.